actor, musician, a cannabis right activist. And you know how we feel about the cannabis. Let's welcome Tommy Chong. What's going on?
Thank you, thank you. Please sit down. No.
Yes, I know. Like I said, big honor to have you on here. We've been fans since we were just learning to walk. Yeah. Hey, I'm like, we were watching Cheech and Chong, and we probably had no business watching it. We had no business watching it over and over.
That was the secret of our success.
Yes.
You know, if you want some, especially a kid, to do something, tell them not to do it.
Well, let's just say we had encouragement from family members. Okay, so
yes. Okay. Well, you know, we Cheech and I, we were like one of the best babysitting videos out there, because the babysitter would come over and say, "What do you want to watch?" And they go, "Cheech and Chong."
Exactly. So you should tell me I blow my first best joint at the age of 2. This girl here got caught in a stash, and when she was caught, she was on the floor rolling. At 2 years old, I was like, "Oh,
and, too, yeah."
And it was rolling good too.
Yeah, well, that's what the big people are doing. You're just going to do it too.
I was helping out.
My daughter Ray Dawn Chong, you know, she's the oldest, and I'd be playing my guitar late at night, you know, smoking, and she would come in, and I wouldn't see her. She'd be standing at the door, standing right behind me for, I don't know, an hour or so, just watching me. And she was always way, way, way above her age. You know, she was given marital advice at the age of 3 or 4. She'd visit neighbors and sit and talk to them. And she's still the same way. She lives in LA now, and we're pretty close. We see each other all the time. But yeah, we have a lot of laughs together.
That's cool, man. Because I know I love your daughter's movies that she's been in. Love your movies. So I think it's a great inspiration. But this is what I'm curious about, because I was reading on you, and you actually dropped out of high school at the age of 16.
Yeah, I did, and then I went back. You know, I dropped out, and I worked as actually, I liked the first job was like the cleanup guy, or the jack of all trades in a toy store, and I really enjoyed that. But the pay, there was no pay, you know.
Right.
I couldn't get paid. And so then when the weather broke, I ended up working as a roofer, and I'd be on the roof, and I'd watch all my friends go to school. I'd been working 2 hours by the time they got up and went to school. And then I'd watch them come home from school. I'd still be on the roof and with 4 hours more to go. And so I decided, I think I'll go back to school.
Oh, that's right.
And so I went back to school, and I tried to get my grade 12, you know. The reason I quit was because I bit off more than I could chew. I went for the matriculation course right off the bat, you know, and then I realized that I really have a thing against algebra.
Oh my God! I don't even know why we have that.
There is something of, well, it's a test. It's that road bump that if you can't get over it, you don't go on to the university, and so I struggled with that, and then I smoked my first joint. And then the next day I quit school. I said, forget it. I realized I wanted to be a blues musician, you know, because that's what I was.
Right.
You know, even though I was in school, my love and my money was coming from playing guitar, you know, in a rhythm and blues band. And so then I realized, you know, as soon as I smoked a joint, I said, you know, what am I doing? You know, get on that street. You get on the street, learn the blues, you know. And that's what I did.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's cool that you were able at a young age to sit there and make a decision. Okay, I've had a little taste. Let me go back and get my education. But music still was part of your life. You've been playing guitar for years. You had bands. I mean, what influenced you, or what influenced your music that you performed?
It was the one thing that I could do, that people like. I learned how to play guitar when I was about 8 years old. Actually, my first love was an accordion that my cousin had in his room. I had an older cousin, and that's where I got all my education from, hanging out in his room. And finding those magazines that were hidden under the bed.
Okay.
He had this little 12 bass accordion, and I just loved it. I'd just sit there and play for hours. Mm-hmm. In fact, I loved it so much that my uncle and aunt ended up giving me the accordion because he never played it. So they ended up giving it to me. But I learned how to play guitar. I'm musical, so I learned how to play guitar. And then I had a neighbor across the field because we lived right on the edge of the building permits, and so it was like homeless land out there. Mm. It wasn't a farm, but we're living on the edge of the farm in the ranchers. And so we had a neighbor that lived across the field that played fiddle and violin for parties. And one day his guitar player left town anyway, he disappeared. And so he knew that I played a little guitar. So he taught me, and I became a sideman for a fiddle and guitar band that played for dances, for parties.
Cool.
Yeah, so it wasn't like get up and show mom and dad what you can do. It was like exactly. we got another set to do. So I played, and they treated me like an adult. Like here I am, 9 years old, and they'd give me a beer.
I was guilty.
I put the beer under my chair because I hated the taste, Right. Give me a 7-Up or something.
Exactly.
But it was a beer. But that's where I got my early training, because I actually played. When you play for a dance, you can't stop. You can't make a mistake and then stop and try to correct it. You just got to keep motoring on. And so I got all that good experience. By the time I was 16, I had stamina. I could play long hours. And then I hooked up with first, a full-blood native by the name of Dick Bird, who was when Elvis Presley came around. He became an Elvis impersonator, and so he used to play for his high school, and he would call me up, and I lived across the city, so I would take a bus with my guitar and go to the other high school, and then we'd play for the what do you call it? Recess, or in between class, or lunch hour, and then we get on stage. They had a stage there, and he would become Elvis, and that really gave me the bug of knowing how powerful a guy with a guitar in front of girls,
Okay, yeah.
and from that time on, I was hooked.
I see, but you also found a way to carry that into your movie franchise. Because I will never forget when I saw Up in Smoke. And you guys trying to go for the punk band competition.
Yeah.
The music was actually funky. I said, I like this. I mean, besides the theme of the movie, And we actually, to this day, go around quoting from that movie to this day. But I actually want to know, how did Cheech and Chong get started?
Cheech and Chong, well, my music career finally took me to Motown. We hooked up with this phenomenal singer from New York, actually, Columbus, Ohio, Bobby Taylor. He became a very famous.
Yes,
he was infamous too. Because he was from that school that New York school of when you're an adult, when you're 6 years old, because life is so tough, like his dad, there were so many kids. I guess he was part Puerto Rican, because he had what they call good hair.
You know about that.
Yeah, I was married to a soul sister for many years. And so Bobby, but he was raised in New York, and like big family. And his dad used to come home with a big box of shoes from Goodwill, and then dump it on the table. And then all the kids would go try to grab their shoes. And Bobby was the youngest. So Bobby ended up with the worst pair of shoes, and they were too big for him. And so, but that's what he had to wear. Right. And that's what he lived through it. And so he was a street corner. He was a doo-wop singer. Meet on the corner and sing, like Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers, all those guys, they did. And then, then he cut a record. Listen, Bobby Taylor really was a key to Cheech and Chong, because Bobby cut a record when he was, he never used the name Bobby Taylor. If you want to check it out, it's a group called the Pastels, and the song is called "Been So Long." Now, Bobby's not listed as the group, but he's in the group. And so I had to put it all together after I met Bobby. Well, what happened, it was a cash prize for this contest that the Pastels entered. And they got beat out by, I can't think of the name right now. But anyway, a very famous group. And they came in second. But the record kind of hit the charts. And so when you get a chance, listen to "Been So Long," and the lead singer is Bobby Taylor, although he's listed as some other, it was an armed services contest. And you had to be like in the Air Force or something. So Bobby took someone else's ID and saying, like I said, this is New York. He's
like, I'm getting in here.
You get what you want. You might have to do a few things, but you do what you got to do.
Right.
And that's what Bobby did. Well, Bobby, after that song, he just went, just hit the road, and played whatever he could do, did whatever he could do. He was quite a ladies' man, so he always had income.
Right.
A place to stay. And he would
and women take care of him.
And he would always he'd always get he was raised very, very Christian, very straight. So he never went into the pimp whore road. But what he would do, he would marry the straightest woman he could find with the nicest job. Hey,
that's a slick way of doing it.
And he had everywhere we went, man, there was like a Bobby Taylor commune. I got to tell you about Bobby, because he was the guy. When I first heard him sing, we were in San Francisco. I was with my original group, but Tommy Melton was the singer. He was a black kid from Canada, from north of Edmonton, and his story was incredible too. Well, when I met Tommy, I was young. I was about 15 years old, just 16, in between school. Was I in school? No, I was out of school by then. So I was 17 when I met Tommy, 16, 17. And Tommy Melton, he was like the star football player. And in Canada, we're from Calgary, see, and so in Canada, if you were black, then you were automatically a singer. You were the lead singer.
They wouldn't like me, exactly.
All you had to do was be black. And so Tommy, even though he was a football player, star football player, he ruined his knee and he took off the cast too soon. Anyway, he found out that when he joined Dick and I, the native and I, the Elvis impersonator, well, he joined us first as a dancer, because him and his partner could dance the Lindy Hop, crazy. Because he was a football player, he could do all these gymnastics, splits and all that stuff. But he really wanted to sing and play guitar. And so then he came and he actually lived with me, because he was kind of like a nomad, he was on his own, and he stayed at my house. And my house was kind of like a boarding house for ex-cons and rock and roll singers, that kind of thing. My mother was so cool, and so we ended up. So Tommy introduced me to rhythm and blues. Before that, I was just a cowboy, country player, and then Tommy introduced me to the blues, and I guess that was when I decided that I'd be a blues singer, and so anyway, but Tommy and Tommy had everything. He could entertain, but he never had the voice. And then when we met Bobby, his vocals they're legendary, and we were together. And I had a nightclub at that time. And that's another great story too.
Yes.
Because it was given to me. It was, hey kid, do you want a nightclub? Okay. So I got a nightclub. It was an after hours club. And we weren't doing good until we hooked up with Bobby. And then when Bobby, because we phoned Bobby really looking for a drummer. And Bobby said, I can play drums. And he could. And so Bobby joined our group as a drummer. Anyway, we got really good. We started doing all the Temptation songs and all the Curtis Mayfield and the impressions. We did all those impression songs. And in fact, we even sang "People Get Ready" in a church. It was a LSD kind of thing, but. So Bobby and he got us all singing. He got the whole group. Well, my bass player, and we all started singing. So we had this beautiful harmony, and so Diana Ross and Supremes came through Vancouver one year. They came down to our after hours club, and she saw Bobby and in our group, and she called Barry Gordy, whom she was having an affair with. And so Barry, he didn't care about that group. He was after Diane. So he flew into Vancouver, heard us, signed us up right away. But we didn't even meet Barry. We just heard about it. Because you come in, I like to go. Come here, Diane. and they were gone. So they signed us to Motown, and then they kind of forgot about us, But Bobby Taylor was such a New York force. There's a whole different thing about New York, and so we just said, "Well, come on, we're signed up. Let's go to Detroit." And so we gigged our way all through. We went to Seattle first, and our reputation had preceded us. That's the way it is with the rhythm and blues world. Your reputation goes before your fame. And so we were packing them in. I mean, seriously, big crowds in Seattle. Then we went to LA, and that was great because again, the reputation preceded us. And there was a group in LA at Maverick Flats was the name of the club, and that's where all the Fifth Dimension and Earth, Wind and Fire, and that's where they were all gigged. Sly was there, all the great singers, and so they heard about us. And the Seven Souls were a singing group. They were like the king of the place. And so they said, but they heard about Bobby Taylor. They said, okay, well, we're going on first. No. Bobby Taylor and them, they have to go on first. And then, because we're the stars. Well, the thing is, the Seven Souls, they were a nice bunch of guys, but, and a couple of them could play a little bit of guitar and that. But when we put our band together in Vancouver, we grabbed the best musicians we could find in Vancouver because we're with Motown now.
Exactly.
We had Mel Brown on drums. We had we had a killer band. I mean, killer.
Mhm.
Oregon, we had Robbie King on Oregon. We had this sound. so we went on stage first and we killed it. I mean, to this day, Chaka Khan, I saw her about a couple of years ago in New York. I was just standing on the street and she walked up to me and she goes, I saw you guys at Maverick Flats. You know, it was a historical thing that they saw as the group, the Vancouvers. And so we just killed it. And when we got to Detroit, you know, Barry Gordy was really funny because we played some club gigs there, you know, and the whole Motown family came to see us, you know. I mean, everybody. They're always in Four Tops, the Temps, everybody sitting in the audience, man. Yeah. And awesome. And then Barry, we kept doing these songs, and Barry Gordy he was sitting ringside. He called me over. He says, "Is that an original song?" And I said, "No, that's Temptations." I mean, or Temptations or Curtis, and because we had all these obscure songs. And so Barry goes, well, you know, who wrote the song? You know, the one song that we were going to record. I said, Tom Baird, this white guy. And he said, which one is Tom? I said, no, he's not with us. And Barry goes, get Tom.
Okay.
So we had to fly Tom in, and we recorded Does Your Mama Know About Me? That was our hit. And Diana Ross loved that song. She recorded it on her album, and that was a big hit. And so we were great. But as this is the way it works in Motown, I guess with everybody, they grab the singer and they take him away from the group. Yep. And that's exactly what they did with us. You know, all of a sudden Bobby Taylor, he's singing, you know, Smokey's songs, and he's off on his own. Yeah. And in the meantime, we discovered the Jackson 5 while we were gigging. You know, we were the ones that brought the Jackson 5 to Motown. But anyway, I
learned something new.
For real.
I ended up, and like I said, I became a real true rhythm and blues performer to the point where I had a mistress, a baby, and a wife and kids.
You was doing it all.
You got real big time, didn't you?
I used to say on stage, I said, man, I got so black, I even married a white woman. and so that was a funny scene because she was my girlfriend. She's my wife now, but she was my girlfriend, you know. And my wife Maxine, she was back in Vancouver, and then everybody found out.
He got the woman.
So I ended up with a road wife, Shelby, and then I ended up with a home wife. I had a road wife and a home wife.
But I must say,
and my road wife was pregnant, so we ended up anyway. I got fired from Motown. I got fired. I'm the only guy that had enough, you know, I could get the guys together, you know, because after I got fired, you know, the band would show up. The bass player forgot his bass. You know,
God. Now how are you showing up with no equipment?
And where's
the drummer, everything. Anyway, I got fired from Motown. And then Barry Gordy heard about it. He called me. No, you're not fired. And I said, yeah, I think I am, man. You know, I told Barry, I said, I want to become a Barry Gordy. I don't want to work for one. And Barry said, well, I can respect that. So he gave me a nice severance pay. And so I went to LA. And then on the way to LA, you know, I in San Francisco, when I was in San Francisco, I saw this improvisational group called The Committee. And so I was totally into improvisational acting. And then I got the call from Canada that the clubs needed help. And seeing how I'm not working in a band anymore to come home. And so I went back with my road wife. And in the meantime, my legal wife, she's in Detroit. And then I got her to LA, where she is now. and because she worked for what's that Family Feud? What's his name?
Steve Harvey's Family Feud, or
Steve Harvey.
Yeah,
she worked for Steve Harvey's radio show for 20 some odd years. She was like she was the receptionist there, Maxine. Oh, she's famous, yeah. And she's still here. And it's a famous family too. Maxine's brother was the original drummer for the Three Dog Night. So that was Floyd. So anyway, I got fired. I went to went back to Vancouver, and then I started, we had a topless club because from the first club, we did so well in the first club, I had another guy give me another club.
You were just blessed. I mean, come on now.
Yeah. And so, but I'll tell you later the secret. And so I started, we started a topless, Canada's first topless bar. Well, Vancouver for sure. And it was doing really well. And so I came in there without a band, without anything really. And so I started working the lights, and then I ended up starting I changed the strippers into actresses. And then I changed, then we got some comedians and we started improv group. And that's how I met Cheech. And when the group, we got fired from my own club.
How you get fired from your own club? How does that happen?
Because we turned it into a legitimate acting studio.
Oh, gotcha.
Instead of having all the drunk bikers throwing money around, we had theater goers brother counting their change and ordering a sip of wine. So my brother he fired us, and so Cheech and I just stayed together. And when I found out, because I've been through the mill a few times, and so when I found out that the two of us, without any instruments, could get on stage and command a big audience, and I said, this is a no-brainer. And then so Cheech and I have been together since 71. Yeah,
a year before you were born, girl.
Like I said, I told him why. In my whole life. Because I'm a 72 baby.
Yeah, so she came up on all the Cheech and Chong experience. So I mean, it's a real interesting story how music brought you guys together. You started performing music together, doing productions together, and now you even got your own cannabis line. Ooh.
Ooh. Well, Up in Smoke opened the door, because the thing is, I've been asked this question a zillion times, how'd you get into marijuana and that, it was a Chinese guy that turned me on, but I got turned on in a jazz club, and every jazz great I ever met, and I've had some really great encounters with like Wes Montgomery and what's his name? All the great Herbie Hancock, all the great jazz guys, and they have two things in common. Number one, they all loved cannabis. They all loved cannabis.
Yes, they did.
And they were all so knowledgeable spiritual wise. They spiritually evolved. Yeah. And together, that's what got me that got me through life, right to this point now, because when we had a chance when we did Up in Smoke, we could have done anything we wanted, and Cheech and I, we had hours of material. We had like 9 albums by that time. We could have gone in any direction we wanted to. In fact, Lou Adler, the producer, the record producer, who became the director of Up in Smoke, he wanted us to do Cheech and Chong's greatest hits. And it would have been okay, but Cheech and I both decided, no, we gotta introduce the new Chicano, the new hippie, and because I wanted to show the world that hippies weren't just low life. Hippies come from very wealthy families,
right? Yeah, exactly.
They were enlightened, and Cheech, every Chicano with a headband should be they're not scary. They're not drug cartel guys,
exactly,
killers, And so Cheech turned the lowrider into a very lovable character.
Yes,
and I turned the rich Jewish. I realized, my father was Jewish in the movie. I turned this rich Jewish kid into this crazy stoner hippie.
Yeah, making your milkshake and flipping your dad off as you left off. I remember the whole.
We had so much fun. Much fun. And in the movie, all the actors, because we're improv actors, all the actors had to kind of write their own material. And so Struther wrote his own speech. You get a job by sundown or I'm shipping you off to He wrote that speech.
And that's probably what made it so much better, though.
Improv is a lot better than scripts.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it is and it isn't. The thing is about script. The script is they manipulate you because they get you thinking one thing and then you end up, other things happen. Well, right. Improv is seeing these things act out in front of your eyes. And it's so real that you can see it over and over and over and over again, and still still get the joke, still get the meaning of it all. It's alive. In other words, even though you put it away, every time you bring it out, it's alive. It's breathing.
Yes.
And you don't have to suspend belief with the Cheech and Chong,
Exactly.
Because I was gonna say it was a lot of improv when you met Strawberry.
Why'd you remind me of this?
That scene is fucking hilarious. That's fine. And you got the bird.
Strawberry.
I wouldn't let it. Yeah, that shit was.
Well, a lot of that, the bird thing, a lot. There again, the secret of any success. Like I say, like a band, it's not just one guy. A band is everybody. Right. A group is everybody. And acting, when you're acting and you're doing a movie, it's everybody. It's a cameraman, it's the boom operator, it's the craft service people that serve you food. Everybody is there for the same reason. And when you use that kind of energy, and with me, because I grew up as a backup guitar player. In other words, I had to make someone else. I had to be there solid, with that solid rhythm, to make them better. To make me better. It was never about making me better. In fact, when I started doing stand-up, it shocked so many people that knew me. Because, especially in a band with a bunch of soul brothers, the white guy doesn't have anything to say.
Come on now, they ain't think that did that.
There's no room.
You're not the regular white boy, they ought to know that.
and that's what I did. I would just be quiet and listen. And I remember, because when you're learning songs, you got to learn, you got to listen, you got to you got to hear, and the lyrics. Like I'm learning how to sing now. Singing, you got to learn the lyrics.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
And when you learn the lyrics, you got to hear it over and over and over again, and so you really get it in your mind. And so when I looked at when I started doing comedy, I could remember, because I was trained, I could remember routines. I could remember bits. And what was it? I could remember the essence. The essence.
Yeah.
It's not the words. It's what the meaning.
And then
then you can shift it around to suit you. To suit my personality.
Right.
No, I've had a blessed career, but then again, here's what I was trying to get to. Remember John Hendricks, and Ross, the great jazz singer?
Mm-hmm.
Well, John Hendricks could have been a preacher. He really could have been, because when you meet him, he's passed now, but he was probably the most talented, intelligent man I think I could safely say that I met. And I met a lot of them, and I had the pleasure. He worked for us up in Canada one time, and then I got to know him, and then I got to hang with him a few times, especially when he's worked with us in Canada. Mm-hmm. He would smoke weed, but because he was a singer, he would take little balls of hash and roll them up, tiny little balls, and then you'd put it in a menthol cigarette filter.
Yes.
And then he'd light it, take a couple of hits, and then he'd go on and sing. Like, he was really the father of rap, because Hendrix, did all those tongue twister songs.
Yes.
My mama told me, right in my head, you're better off dead. He did all those tongue twisters. Well, talk to him about creation, about civil rights, about dignity.
Yes.
He just put. He was so real.
Yeah.
So real,
It's
and what
rare
I
you meet
found
people
out,
like that, especially nowadays.
Yeah, what I found out, everybody in the jazz world, Herbie and everybody that I've met, they've all had this discipline of listening, of learning.
Yeah.
And it's all about rhythm. It's all about, music is all about rhythm. There's so many beats for this note. There's a rest, and everything's important. Every beat's important. Every rest is important. Yeah, and then when you learn that, then when you apply that to spirituality, now we're talking eternal. We're talking eternal beings. Like, music has always been here. There's never been a time on our planet that there were, and like in the Bible says, in the beginning was the Word. Yeah. The Word. Everything has been here, but in the beginning of our relationship, our realization of who we are, was this ability to communicate, And it's a word, like Jesus said, it's my word that's going to live forever. I'm going to be here for a little while, and then I'm gone, but my words will live on. And so when you realize that, and then you realize the power of the word. Yes. And if, again, in the Bible, the word is God. And that's all. And this is what I've been telling, people that come to me for advice or for some, uplifting message. I tell them all is that every living thing on this planet, and everything on this planet is living. Right. Yeah. Has a God app. Like, we have an app in our phone for photography or whatever thing. We all are built with the God app. Yes. And the ones that are chosen and the ones that are blessed know that God app. And the God app is not hard to find. It is. Because you should have had a Cannabis church. It's in your mind. Yes. It's in your mind, you see. And all you have to do, and this is the greatest thing about what Jesus taught us, but all the mystics taught us the same thing. Is all you have to do is change your thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we can't have two thoughts in our mind at the same time.
Yes, we can.
And so you can dwell in the negative as long as you want, or or you can worry about the future as long as you want. But the minute you change your mind and put God in your thoughts, then you're all of a sudden you're in the present.
Yes.
And that's where we are always. We're always in the present. We're never in the future. We're never in the past, but we're always in the future. But our minds are so powerful that it can take us anywhere we want to go. Anywhere. If we want to go to the end, if we want to go to another universe, we can do it. In our mind, we can just take ourselves to another place.
Yes.
That's how powerful our mind is. So this is what I tell people that ask. I don't try to tell people that don't ask, but I try to tell people that ask, because what I found out too is that the best way to teach spirituality is by example.
Yes.
Yes.
That's the only thing that people look at you and say, "Oh, what are you doing?" Just like, so what do you listen to? What do you do? What are you doing? So what I found with people, stressed, people in need, people that are hurting, it's, if you want to improve your life, if you want to have all the riches in this world, it's yours. You just have to put your mind into a positive state.
Yeah.
And the way to keep your mind there, because it's a tightrope, it's not a wide path. Remember the straight and narrow path?
Yes.
It's not only straight and narrow, it's a tightrope.
Yeah. Amen.
You gotta be careful. Each step you gotta do, you gotta think it through. You gotta think that.
Yeah,
through,
you're right.
And then it becomes a body memory. It becomes a habit. And then once you get that habit, you can fall off that rope anytime.
Yeah.
Yes.
And by the way, we're supposed to, because this is how we learn.
Exactly.
We learn, that they say, learn the hard way.
Yeah.
Don't want to do that too often.
That's our life. We all learn. We all done it, And so anyway, so I'm a good example of believing, because it's another thing too. You can have this knowledge, but until you believe, and that's what I noticed too, especially on Twitter and that, because I make people very nervous when I talk about God. People get,
right.
They're not evolved.
You can talk about God here.
They're not evolved. They're not evolved. They'll get there. We all get there. We got no choice. We got no choice.
Exactly.
It's true.
Exactly.
Because we keep coming back until we get there.
Yeah. Gets knocked in the head a couple of times.
Yeah. I look at life. It's a lot like skiing. When it's done right, it looks so easy, because it is easy.
Right.
But if you don't know how to ski, it can be a disaster.
It's like me skiing. Be in my face. I'm wrapping like a tree.
How do you ski? Little bit at a time. Little bit at a time.
Yes.
But man, I've been having so much fun with this lockdown. I've been, people say, "How you doing?" I'm doing great.
So you sound like us,
right?
Yeah, because I know the word.
Yeah, and that's what we've been doing. We've been working on our spirituality.
That's exactly how we're using this lockdown time besides our show.
Yes,
but getting closer to God and getting, because we got a lot of things we try to sort out, and it's easier when you're on that path.
Yes.
Oh, easier.
If you had a church, I would have went.
We would have been members.
Yeah, we got to talk about weed
and learn the word of God. I'm down.
Yeah. It's easy. You don't even have to say it. You just have to think it.
Yeah,
That's how powerful. That's the most powerful word in the human language, not English. Human language. Every religion you talk to, what are they talking about? No, and they're talking to their constituents, and they're listening because they understand their language. And that's why you gotta give everybody space. Just like the homeless. Like I've been with people. They're either disgusted or blah blah. But no, I look at it whole differently, man. I look at a being on earth that's going through a learning experience.
Yes.
That's what they're doing, because that's what we all do. We're all going through our learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you can't. That's why, like they teach you, to judge not. There's another a book. I don't know if you guys know about Emmett Fox.
I'm familiar with the name.
If you do it, I swear to God, read his books. You will love them. You will love him to death, because he's sort of like he just takes it. It's for everybody, and he explains what when they wrote the Bible, what the words meant. Because the Bible wasn't written at the time it was done. The Bible. People didn't even know how to talk to each other for centuries, and then to write something down, and then everything was written by writers, professional writers, and so they would embellish certain areas, and they were racist too. A lot of them.
Oh, trust me, we know this. We know this. Okay,
I mean, they took all black folks out the Bible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
look what got your people through that journey. Journey, and now you look at, like I've been reading about the people that whose ancestors were slaves on these plantations. Now they end up owning them. Because it was the slaves that learned how to grow the stuff.
Okay.
The owners, all they learned how to do was spend the money.
Right. Yeah, you have never done the labor.
They never learned.
So you have no idea. So when we leave, you fucked.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh, I had. When I got turned on. Well, I turned on myself. And you know what I found out just recently? That I'm part Native. It's so funny. My mother she was one of the greatest ladies ever. She was 25% Native Indian.
Okay.
I had no idea. We had no idea. My mother married a little short Chinese guy, and that was the big scandal of the family.
I can imagine.
But worse than that, deep in hiding the fact that us boys are 8%, 10%. I mean, ever since I was a little guy, I got pictures hanging in my bathroom now of my brother and I, just pants, no shoes, no shirt, just a pair of drawers, just pants. And that was us for all summer. All summer. We never wore shoes because you don't wear shoes in the country, in the dirt road. No, in the hot. Oh, it's too easy.
Yeah.
And not only that, but I grew up in an era where, and I still have this habit, where you don't dirty your clothes, because that means someone has to carry water, heat the water, pour it in a wash tub, stand over there with their hands and scrub that
on a washboard. Oh God,
that's some hard work. I don't blame them.
Then you got to wring it out. Then you got to wring it out, and then you got to flap it, and then you got to hang it on a clothesline. And so my brother and I, and my sister, but I had a younger sister, but she was in a different category. But my brother and I were like little natives. But the funniest thing to me that cracked me up was the fact that everybody was upset that my mother married a Chinese guy.
And here all my young natives.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's funny. I want Michelle to do the same thing. But I'm finally getting
She's tracing her roots.
Yeah, I just started tracing our roots, and I've got a DNA test coming in right now since my parents have already had theirs done.
Mm-hmm. So we got.
Where's yours from?
Oh, of course, our black side is Congo and Nigerian.
Mm-hmm.
My dad is 39% Viking.
Yes.
So I told him he can't use the N-word anymore. And mom has, I think, Jewish.
Yeah.
It's another island, but it's like so mixed up. But my dad has more Caucasian on his side. So I said, since y'all together, I wonder, what
our mix is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great known. I mean, it doesn't change anything, but
exactly. Because here I am with this gorgeous skin. I'm black, okay? But it's really interesting.
Well, that's what cracked me up, about Obama. They're always talking about the first black president, He was the first half black president.
Right.
He's the first half.
Most black Americans are half black.
Yes.
If you're not straight from Africa today,
you're
biracial.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then we checked my dad, Chinese. I got a Chinese name, Chong.
Right.
But he was mostly from the South Sea Islands. He was like an islander more than from China. And and I got a grandmother. She was my dad's mother. Oh, she was a fire. Her name, check out her name, Annie Song. That was her name.
Annie Song. That's pretty.
Annie Song. Isn't that beautiful?
That is pretty.
She was the first Chinese woman to fly an airplane in Canada or in America, I guess.
Okay.
And so that was, and she was in the theater too. And so she kind of raised my dad. My dad was very, very Oriental Chinese. Like he was a truck driver. And when he left on the road, he'd never say goodbye. He'd just leave. And then when he come back, he wouldn't say hello. He would just appear. And no, it was cool because there was no longing. Oh, well, he's gone. And it was like, he's not there. And then he's there, it was
it's almost like our day.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because our dad was a music executive. He still is, and we would be going weeks without seeing him for a minute.
Yeah, he oversees there, so we all like the presence he brought back.
But it turns you into individuals.
Yes.
See, you're not. I mean, that's the joy I had with my life is that I was left alone right from the beginning. I had a medical problem when I was a kid, baby actually, and I ended up in the hospital for about 2 years, I guess, with a pleurisy, and my mother had TB, and so I never really had a mom and dad kind of that parent thing. And then when we finally got together, my dad's a truck driver. He'd be gone for days, weeks on end, and so it was like I was like a single parent kind of existence, But we're in the country, and when you live in the country, you're totally in tune with nature.
Yeah, and that's what I want to live. I want to live big land, far away from everybody. And I think it's funny what you said because it's like nowadays people helicopter their kids, and these kids are you're getting excessive,
so fragile,
sensitive children. For back in your time and our time, it wasn't like that.
No. Listen, when you're a certain age, if you live in the country, if you're 8 years old, you're driving the tractor. Because someone has to drive it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you're like we did. Like my brother was, he was actually like a thug in a way, fighting because he was 3 years older than me, and he was half Chinese, and he was also we ended up in the home, and he was also so he got tortured when he was a kid, because he's half Chinese, he's in the home. And so he learned to fight real early, and because he was like my grandfather or my mother was quarter native, And so he had that native, and then he had the Scotch. There's a Scotch, so he had that side of him. So he
had a lot of hot blood going on.
Tough as nails, man. and of course, and a good athlete. But I was lucky because I wasn't tough. So I learned how to be funny real early in my life. Because I learned people, you can if you make people laugh, they're not going to punch you.
That's true. Yeah, they
or if they punch you. If they punch you, it's going to be a love bite. It's going to be a love tap.
That was Richard Pryor used to say that he would make jokes anytime he got locked up. He would make jokes to make people up off him.
Yeah,
so it's a good defense mechanism as far as using jokes.
I was the fighter. Michelle was she's the sweet one.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I've seen that.
I was the one that always found the kids' mama didn't want me playing with.
when we had our band, the first band, the Shades, because we're all different colors.
Right.
It was my brother, who's a linebacker, football player. The saxophone player was also a lineman. He was a big, handsome, half black, Pete Watts artist, and we only had one white guy. He was the drummer. And he was like, he didn't fight. He got the money at the end of the night.
Somebody got to get the money.
He wasn't Jewish, but we treated him like one. And then,
mama because she's part Jew.
But all the rest, like Tommy, the singer, was a god. His body, incredible body. He was a small running back in a pro football team. So you know how beautiful, and he knew how to fight, but he knew how to run faster than that. And Bernie, the piano player, Bernie was also he was like a bodybuilder, big, strong kid, and his brother ended, the one that was Three Dog Night, ended up playing hockey. He could have been a pro hockey player, and so we had the toughest band.
And sound like a sexy band too.
A tough, sexy band.
Yeah, tough and sexy. I like that.
Yeah. We had fun when we put on a dance, man. People would come everywhere, and then we kept our reputation. After we left, Vancouver, we had reunions and that after a while, but they're all gone. They all died. I'm the only one left now. Man. And but you can't go back.
No, but you got some great memories.
Some awesome memories, though.
Great memories. Because to be right there with all those people, I know you got the dogs in the background.
We got some too.
We got some in our house too, so don't worry about it. But the awesome experiences you guys had and bonding with these great musicians, learning so much about spirituality, and also incorporating cannabis. And I wanted to ask you one last question about that, because I know you're an advocate. What are some of the challenges that are being faced right now when it comes to legalization?
The legalization?
Yes.
Well, the biggest challenge is how much the black market money is making, because it corrupted the whole system. See, the legal system is corrupted. The police are corrupt, especially the DEA. That's how they made them. How many cops do you know that have yachts and summer homes?
Right.
Exactly. And so there was so much money coming in with the black market. That's why they kept it illegal for so long. Plus the fact that they always had a racist law that they could use to incarcerate people of color. It goes all the way back to before slavery for sure, but before that. With the Chinese, my dad, when he was born in Vancouver, but he had to have a Chinese identification card because he was Chinese. And even though he was born in Canada, they never treated him like and he went to war. He went to the Second World War. And even though he went to war for the country, Chinese weren't allowed to hold public office until the 60s, when the civil rights thing kicked in, you know.
Right.
And imagine that. I mean, and even when we got out of the, he got out of the war, it took years before we were allowed to cash in on his service because of him being Chinese. Everybody else got a wartime house. It took us years before we got ours. And he wasn't an activist at all. Back in the day, you couldn't be an activist unless you just wanted to be drummed out of society or put in jail.
But I learned right before Michelle was born was when they considered blacks human.
Yeah,
and that was in the 60s.
And I'm a 60s man. Yeah. So it's just crazy.
Well, they did experiment. They did those experiments on the prisoners, on the black prisoners. I mean, it was horrific. Or what happened in Tulsa. Well, the great story. My first wife, Maxine, who we're very close together now. She turns 80 this year. She's not too happy about it. But her family, check this out. Her family, when they freed everybody, or so-called freed everybody in the States, they got a wagon train from Texas. Oh, yeah, Texas. Mm-hmm. And all the ex-slaves got together and they looked on the map for the furthest part away from Texas. And it was north. It was Edmonton, Alberta. That's where they were headed for, Edmonton. Okay. Because there's jobs and everything else. But when they got to Edmonton, the city fathers wouldn't let them stay in Edmonton, but they allowed them to purchase land north of Edmonton, and it's called Amber Valley. And so there was a whole group, of a tribe up there from Texas, and that's my brother. That's my Ray Don. Like Ray Don's mother was it Maxine? Again, I'm a musician. Ray Don's mother, she's a bone from that same tribe, and then Maxine, my first wife, she's a Crothers from the first tribe, and they were all up there. But you know what kept them, because they all became either preachers or what do you call it, a layman, where they preach God, they have jobs, but they work.
Yes.
It was the Christian church that motivated them to go up to Canada, and then they thrived up there. There's still the tribes up there. They're still up there. Man. And wow. I mean, and I found that out, because Calgary, was probably as racist as any city in Biloxi, Mississippi. I mean, it at one time was that racist.
Yeah, but I believe I worked in Mississippi.
I got to tell you this: when we got discovered by Motown, we were a house band. We never had a name. We were just a bunch of musicians in my club. So we we're the house band, and so Motown wanted, what's the name of the group? What's the name of the group? We never had a name.
We're a house band, man.
and so we had to get a name. And so we said, okay. And like I said, it was my club. We had a marquee out in front and everything. And so we there was a group called 10 Screaming Ends, the N word. In Texas, 10 Screaming Ends.
Oh, and so we said, I got to look that up.
How about if we call ourselves 4 N's and a C?
I read that. I said, Lord have mercy. How controversial could that name be back during that?
Oh, can you imagine? I got calls from Associated Press, is that true? And we put the marquee up there. We put it on the marquee. That night, nobody came to the club. Nobody.
Like, I did.
That's number trouble right there. So
nobody wanted to see 4 N's and a C, except one very angry, quiet, a woman wrestler named Lottie the Body. She was very kind of light skinned, but she was a sister. There was no doubt about it.
Right.
And so she come to the club, and we're up on stage, we're playing away. We forgot about the name, we're just playing music, and she's sitting there, and then halfway we finished one song, and she goes real loud. She goes, "Well, I see the ends, but where's the sea?" And my dad, who had no idea that we put the sign up there, because
oh my God, that's hilarious.
He's my dad. My dad is 5'3". He walks over to Lottie and he goes, "We don't allow that kind of talk in here." Giving her. Well, Lottie stands up, grabs my dad, and body slams him on the dance floor. And I see my dad getting attacked, so I take off my guitar and I run down there. Well, she picked me up, body slammed my butt.
Damn, she was there for the business.
All the band's laughing. They're laughing.
I know they were.
Because that's the kind of band we had. If someone got in trouble, forget helping them, just laugh at them.
Exactly. They are getting their ass whipped by a woman.
Oh man! And so we had to change. So we changed the name from Four N's and a C to four colored guys and a Chinese lad. And we told Motown. Motown said, "No. You guys are the Vancouvers. You guys are Bobby Taylor and the Vancouvers. That's who you guys are." Yeah.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. That is hilarious, Mr. Chong. I promise you, we've had you on here for quite a while, and I hate to even end.
It's the vibe,
The vibe is just good, man. And
it's delicious.
We would love to bring you back on.
Yeah, anytime. Because we should talk about my products. But anyway, just go to TommyChong.com and you'll see a big list of it. We're cannabis. Our thing is that we get the best growers, and we get the best growers. That's the whole point. And because we pay really well. And so, but we don't put up with any bogus stuff. But you know what? There's so many good growers because everybody, it takes the same amount of energy to grow the good stuff as it does to grow the bad stuff.
Yes. Yeah, it does.
And so why not just grow the good stuff? So that's what we got. And the CBD is so healthy for you. Yes. If you're not doing CBD, get on CBD. It'll cure everything. My wife, who never really smoked ever, she liked acid instead. She liked LSD, but she's a fan of our gummy bears and our breast strips because it helps her sleep. It'll help you sleep, and sleep is so important.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah.
I just wish I lived somewhere where we can have it shipped, because I know y'all don't ship to Texas.
Because I went to your website and I said, "Do you see all this inventory this man has?" I'm like, "This is awesome." And I said, "I can't have it delivered to Texas though." That's
and
the
it would
only
be
thing.
wonderful, especially for my nephew.
Right.
He's artistic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, perfect for him. Perfect for him. Well, we got Biden in. We're going to have it legal across the country, Texas included.
Yes.
That's what they promised it, and they're gonna because there's so much revenue to be made. Not just by the cops. It's gonna be spread around. The school's going to get a taste.
And it is funny that you said that, because I was just saying, if I had a daycare, I said I would have some CB oil in their food to calm their little tails down. I did. I said nap time would be so easy for daycares if they had that.
Right. CBD lunches.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chong.
Let's do it again.
they talk too much prior to it. Like a lot of people talk their way out of a good fuck.
Yeah.
House
You know?
look like something from Black Snake Moan, like a fucking crack house.
Black Snake Moan.
I swear to
Did
God,
you
it was
just-
dishes.
Being selfish.
Let me come first.
Ladies, y'all feet cannot be dirty. So if I look down, your feet crusty and dusty, I'm saying hell no.
But you're not fucking her feet. No more boomerang.
I'm gonna say bad breath, body odor, dirty feet.
Oh, you on that Levante
Dirty,
kick.
oh my God.
I'm
You don't
gonna
know.
tell you what
Yeah.
I need for me to feel the way that I need to feel.
Exactly.
So don't come here acting like I'm your girlfriend and I'm supposed to know what makes you happy.
Exactly.